Welcome to another episode of Tech Lounge, a podcast where we discuss the ever-changing world of technology.
Right.
And now your host, Dan Duran.
Hello. We are here. Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Durant, and I'm the host of the Tech Lounge. Here we discuss topics related to business and today, cybersecurity. Welcome, everybody, to the show, episode 17, 5 cybersecurity trends. Some of them are pretty bad that you cannot ignore in 2021 and 2022. I have two people with me. Andrew Swart, he's the technical sales engineer, Superman from Rhino Cybersecurity. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Glad to be here.
And of course, we have my co-host extraordinaire, The Rock, the foundation of Rhino Cybersecurity, Andrew Somerton. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Dan. Always a pleasure to be here. Andrew, wonderful having you again, sir. This is going to be a fantastic show. A lot of really cool things we're going to be discussing that we're looking into 2022.
Yes. And guys, you know what? The format of the show has changed a little bit. So we reduced it to half an hour. We thought that we were dragging along too much and kind of making people fall asleep. So it's going to be only 30 minutes, but it's going to be very interactive. So please make sure you follow us using the hashtag Dan Duran and enjoy this show. All right. So 5 Doomsday cybersecurity trends that are happening nowadays. Let's go to the first one. Let me share my screen. All right. So guys, if you have any questions, if you have any shout outs, please send them your way. And Gladstone is going to be working from behind the dials, putting all of those comments on the screen. And
Dan,
send it over.
Sorry, buddy, before I didn't mean to cut you off there. Before you show this, maybe we should just do a quick little intro on the backstory of why we're doing this, because I think it's really important to share to everybody the value of this show. Sure. and why it's so important. So guys, the reason we wanted to talk about the 5 trends for heading into next year is there's so much happening with cybersecurity and so many different events that are going on, and it's not a scare tactic. We always do this show about awareness. We always do it about having you be informed, learn some new things, and we want you to be looking around the corners. And so, being that we're in the cybersecurity world, we do this on a regular basis. Yes. And we look out into the technology world, and we look at other experts as well, and we get their insight. And this is some really big things that are going to be happening, or the vision that could be happening in 2022 and moving forward.
Absolutely.
So absolutely.
All right. No, that's a good point. I mean, we don't want to scare you, but we want you to make sure that you're safe, right? And this is pretty scary stuff in itself. Okay. So the first one comes from Gartner, right? Gartner, really good, reputable institution that says that threat actors will have weaponized operational technology to the point where it's going to cause human casualties in the future, 2022. So what do you think about this? Andrew Swart, you start.
Yeah, for sure. So, my background's critical infrastructure cybersecurity. There are there's a lot of groups out there, especially government-backed groups, that are interested in getting into the critical infrastructure of other countries. They want to, shut down other countries or hold them for ransom, and they're doing that. We've already seen electrical companies, blackouts happen in Ukraine. It's happened a couple of times. It's happening. It's an issue, and I think they're sort of staying away so far from actually killing people, but that capability is definitely there.
Exactly. So, one thing is to steal money and data and all of that, and another thing is to actually kill, human beings, right? So it is pretty bad. Andrew Somerton, any comments on this?
Well, I mean, we're so dependent on our resources, right? And our resources are so controlled by technology. So, I mean, our heating, as Andrew alluded to, water, healthcare, etc. So, if as times continue to advance and technology continues to change and threats are continuing to increase, this definitely could affect the human, actual casualties, right down to the fact of death, and it's scary. And it's not to be scared, but it's the reality of it is technology is they have that ability out there, those hackers, to do this.
Yeah, and imagine the power goes off, right? So you have a blackout for 15 minutes, and then you're starting to freak out. You have stuff on the fridge. Imagine that happening for a whole week or 2 weeks.
Yeah,
That would be catastrophic, man.
Absolutely.
And it did happen. Remember the New York outage that we had, like probably a decade ago? That was like so far back, and everybody was freaking out. It was really, really big, right? So that was a pretty big scare. All right.
Well,
so
you think about how dependent we are, right? We just take everything for granted nowadays. If our computers take an extra second to upload, we're like, oh, we're freaking out. We don't think twice, especially in countries like Canada, United States, Europe, except you turn the water on and it's there. Electricity is there. Imagine when it's not, right? That can happen. And we can't take those things for granted. There's no question.
It's definitely a real issue. We've seen water treatment plants. We've seen, the chemical makeup that control has been taken by hackers. And fortunately, it's not actually been used in a lethal way at this point. And most of those companies are putting in place the right kinds of protections.
Absolutely.
So it's very important that you put those protections in place if you have critical infrastructure, if you've got a manufacturing operation where you want to ensure, the integrity of the product that you produce.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes. Guys, if you hear a train passing by, it's not because the world is coming to an end. It's
Aren't
because
you traveling?
I am right beside the train tracks and I can hear it myself. Can you guys hear it? I hope you can.
I cannot hear it.
We can't hear it right now, but
okay, awesome.
If you get on it and you leave, we'll be a little concerned.
Yes. Guys, so the second, before I go into the second one, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, place it on the chat and Gladstone is going to put them on screen for you. So the second item that I want to talk about is this one. And this one is very, very scary. Okay, let's look at this. Supply chain attacks by North Korean hackers. And not just North Korean, but we see Russian, we see pretty much from everywhere in the world, these pesky supply chain attacks. Kaseya was one. SolarWinds was another one. So this talks about the Lazarus Group and how their APT, so APT is an advanced persistent threat, it's increasing. And this in the future will increase more and more cybersecurity espionage from nation states. This is from the Hacker News. Andrew Swart, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so let's just first look at the supply chain aspect of it. And I think a lot of people remember the Target was attacked through a supply chain. It was an HVAC contractor who was compromised. That came into Target. That resulted in a huge data breach at Target. Mm-hmm. So supply chain is something that you need to be concerned about. A lot of companies now are requiring that their clients or even their vendors show that they can be secure. They want to see penetration test results. They want to know that the people that they do business with are secure so that they don't get compromised by that. Yeah. You mentioned Kaseya. That's a huge example of where you're using a tool, an IT tool. Sometimes even some security tools can get compromised, and then that can compromise your whole business. So you want to ensure that as much as is possible, as much as you can, you're putting the right basics in place, and you know that you're working with secure companies.
Absolutely. But you know what? This is not even it's not even a company's fault, right? This is all supply chain attacks. So let's say we have a company and there's 500 people working for that company, and I have all the cybersecurity in place. I have my team, my cybersecurity team. I have all the technology, and we're very good and practice cybersecurity to the T, right? How can we counteract this? This has nothing to do with us. It has to do with our vendors that are being attacked, right?
Yeah. So one thing that you can do is just do due diligence on your vendors. If you've got if you got a choice between endpoint detection and response or antivirus that comes from a company in Russia or that comes from a company in the United States, I know which one that I would choose especially if I had critical infrastructure, critical data that I needed to protect.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think that's so important, guys, because at the end of the day, as a business owner or someone running an organization, you're concerned with the infrastructure of your business, and as Dan alluded to, you can put all the right measures in place. But now we have to start looking at people we do business with, which is critical. And before you looked within your own walls to do all that, and now you have to do that, and then on top of that, look outside of your walls to make sure you're protected. And it's just constantly increasing, and you need to be aware of that.
Yeah, and a big example of this that's been in the news, over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, has been Huawei. They
Right.
provide a lot of the networking equipment.
Yes.
They're very advanced in that, um, and I mean, they became advanced in that because of supply chain attacks. They became advanced because they were able to get a lot of intellectual property from Nortel, and now they've got a lot of those same Nortel uh, scientists who they are actually contracting with because Nortel went down
Yes.
because of the supply chain attacks on Nortel. And
Unbelievable.
and now people don't really realize it, but if you use the Huawei equipment, there's a potential, and I believe it's a real potential for the data that goes through that to become compromised. And now it's China that has that. So if you've got critical information, you want to use solid equipment by solid vendors where you know where it's made, and that you can be more you know um, confident that
Absolutely. So, everybody, if you have questions, if you have comments on this type of stuff, Doomsday Cybersecurity on the Rhino Cybersecurity today on the show, just please make sure you post them, and then we'll be displaying them on the screen. Let's move on to the third item. We only have 30 minutes, so it's a flash show today. All right, the third item is this one. We're talking about vendor attacks and supply chain attacks, right? And that's a very big cause for concern. So, what's going to happen in the future? And this is from beyondtrust.com. Cyber insurance termination. What do you think
Yes.
about this, Andrew Somerton?
You know what? It's incredible because we hear about this all the time, and what I mean by this, I'm talking about cybersecurity insurance. People are coming to us all the time saying, "Okay, I need cybersecurity insurance," or "How do I get it?" or "How am I protected? What measures do I need to be put in place?" The thing is, cybersecurity insurance has been around for a while, and now it's starting to be hit as the numbers continue to increase. Trillions of dollars are going to be actually lost in 2021 alone in cybersecurity attacks. So what that does is it ripple effects to the cybersecurity insurance companies, and they're going to start saying now either no, we can't insure you, or you need a proper landscape in place or a proper cybersecurity hygiene in your organization, or the costs are going to be so astronomical you're not going to be able
Yes.
to afford them. And so it's a huge concern. And so that's where the cybersecurity hygiene comes into play with making sure that your organization's protected. So then if you do approach an insurance company, that you've done all the right things. Because if you haven't, they're going to ask you moving
Yes.
forward because it's not going to be there anymore.
yeah, right now
Absolutely.
it's
And I
mostly
think,
just a series of check boxes where you just check it off and they just give you rates
yes.
based on that. And but now it's gonna I believe they're gonna start and they're gonna have to start actually doing some due diligence and making sure that you've got that in place,
Yes.
because when you don't, then they have to pay out you know big payouts.
Yeah, and the other thing is like the requirements, as just as you're saying, are going to become more stringent,
For sure.
right? So the insurance companies are going to require companies to have all kinds of cybersecurity in place, and that in turn it's also expensive for any company. So and they're going to be able to turn down any number of companies, right? So we have a whole group of companies. I can say no, 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 yes, you, and you know what I mean. So it is going to be tough to get insurance, and this is the expectation for 2022 and beyond. And it has to do with the tsunami. They say tsunami of ransomware attacks that is
Yeah.
happening in the world, which is absolutely insane. If you got any questions, make sure you send them over, and we'll display them and answer them for you. So, Gladstone, do we have any questions on the back? And there we go. Diego Mascastrion asks, The past is destined to repeat itself. That is the main premise to guess the possible threats of the future.
Well, you know what's funny?
Ooh,
Because in regards to that question, Dan, I mean, you know what? Yeah, the past repeats itself, but the thing is, technology and cybercrime is actually all future. It's all been increasing. We're actually more than repeating ourselves. It's just increasing. Consecutively growing higher and higher in each and every year. It's not about what we did last year and it's going to repeat itself. It's what it did last year plus times two, plus times
yeah,
five, plus times 10, because as we all know, we live and work from home, we buy from home, we shop from home. You know, e-commerce stores, basically everything is trusted now via technology. So it's not even about repeating. We've never been here before. And you know, Diego, great point, because that's kind of the mindset. But the reality of it's the world has never been this far advanced with technology. And I don't know if you guys have seen, you know, all the new wonderful things Facebook is doing now with the
yes.
their new company,
Metaverse.
and augmented reality and
Oh
virtual
yeah,
reality, and it's all really exciting, cool stuff. But it's also extremely scary.
yeah.
And so with that, we've never been here before. So we need to be, you know, looking around corners, looking into the future, following the trends, and realizing this isn't going away. This is only going to increase.
Yes,
And go ahead, Dan.
and
Sorry.
yeah, and you know what? Actually, Aura has a really good question that goes to the next point. So, um, she says, "Hey guys, do you think 2022 will still be a year for remote work?"
So
Right? and
Yeah, for sure.
and the next point has to do with remote work as well. So let me just show it to you.
great question, Aura.
Very good question. Increase attacks on cloud services. You were talking about the metaverse. You were talking about VR and all this communication and
Exactly.
the evolution of 5G, for example. Now it's like 20 times faster than regular LTE 4G, and so cloud services are very important for everybody. Everybody's moving. Most of the companies are moving from on-prem services and servers into the cloud, and this is what's happening. Increase attacks on cloud services. What do you think about this, Andrew Swart?
I mean, yeah, it's a reality that a lot of people are taking advantage of, the economies of scale that come with cloud services, and um, hackers have always been scanning the internet, just scanning everything they can. And as you move more things outside of your perimeter into the cloud, there's more there for them to see and attack.
Yes, and this is funny because this comes from Panda Security. So Panda Security is a very well known antivirus and EDR solution that's been there for a while. And they say that, for example, misconfigured cloud settings, and
Exactly.
this has nothing to
Yeah.
do with the technology. It has to do with the people
Human.
working on the technology, right?
Yeah, people are always the weakest link. That's the case for your on-premise
That's right.
equipment, and that's the case for your cloud equipment. It's important that you've got the people, you've got the expertise that can take care of that. And this all goes back down to the basics. You need to have the basics in place. You need to have the right
Yes.
people, the right capabilities, whether that's your own team or a team that you can trust, a service provider or a security service provider, and yeah, you need to make sure you get the basics in place. Your basic, endpoint detection response, your basic network detection response, your incident response capabilities, all those basics. If you get them in place, a lot of these things are not going to be nearly the same problem for your company
Yes.
as they will be.
For sure. You know what?
Exactly.
I'm
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I cut you off there, Dan. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is that, yeah, you're talking about people, and people are the weakest link. However,
Mhm.
these are supposed to be experts, like the cloud engineers working on the configuration. And you know what? I don't know if you heard about Twitch, that big, like the Twitch gaming application.
Okay, no.
Because of misconfiguration, they were hacked and they stole the source code from a Git. The hackers stole the entire source code of the application, and not only that, but they stole all kinds of stuff. And this has to do with a big company. Twitch is a huge company, right? So, um,
Yeah, the same
yeah,
thing happened
you're
with
having the proper
Equifax.
people.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Equifax. It was a simple
That's right. Yes.
misconfiguration, I think, with
Wow.
the Apache on their servers, and that's how there was. I forget what it was, but I think it was hundreds of millions of data of records, personal records released.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have any questions, please post them in there, and Gladstone will be happy. I know I've been clicking in there, so I'm sorry. I apologize, Gladstone. He will put your questions on the screen for you. So moving on. So we got only 10 minutes left on the clock, and let me show you the next one. The next one, number 4, is we were talking about people and expertise and the weakest link.
This is
Number
huge.
4 is talent shortage. What do you think about this, Andrew Somerton?
You know what? It's kind of incredible because, as I was alluding to earlier with Diego's question, we've never been here before, and you know what? We've had a couple of shows in the past talking about courses and what you should be looking into if you're a student, you're looking at advancing your skill set, whether you're IT or you're brand new going into university, and whether there's going to be a shortage. Cybersecurity and technology is only advancing dramatically, and there is an absolute shortage. There's a shortage in talent pool. There's a shortage in resources. Technology is always advancing and changing, so that talent pool that's in place has to be always learning. And so, simultaneously, hand in hand, what's going to happen is, as these insurance companies are saying no, the increased cyber attacks and the more losses that are happening, the more technology that's, like I said, that's being implemented into the system, the new cybersecurity tools that are going to help with the new technology. It's just going to put a bigger demand on the talent pool that's there. And what happens is, it's either you're not going to get service right away, the costs are going to increase, there's going to be a longer turnaround time. So the ripple effect is dramatic. It's like
Yes.
let's talk about nurses or doctors and things like that. Could you imagine? And nurses can probably contribute. And I don't know the industry too well, but I don't want to talk to it too much. But you've heard through the news is how much work they do and the shortage on the nurses,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
how you feel when you go to a hospital and you're pushed off. You have 8 or 10 hour, 20-hour waiting times. And imagine in the cybersecurity world where now your business is shut down because of a cyber attack, and someone now can't help you because you don't have those tools in place because there's a shortage. And
Yep.
again, this isn't a scare tactic. These are things to be aware of,
Yeah.
because it's inevitable. The trend is happening. We can go back
Yes.
3 to 5 years and see how the trend is only going up, and it's actually not going up gradually. It's skyrocketing at this
Yeah.
point.
And the problem also, Andrew, I think you hit a point in there. Also, the problem is that when you are in cybersecurity, it's not that you can just be fresh out of college and start working on cybersecurity in a high level. You need a lot of
Experience.
experience, a lot of seniority to be able to work in cybersecurity, because you go beyond information technology. IT work is way beyond that, to be able to, and in cybersecurity is one of those really broad fields that you need to know pretty much everything that's going on. And and it is very hard. It's very hard. I mean, you have to have like 10 years of experience in cybersecurity to be able to be good or half decent, right? So that puts a bigger strain on the people that are coming out of school, for example, on this shortage. What do you think, Andrew Swart, on this?
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking a couple of things here. One is that, you know, IT services. So it used to be that every company had their own IT team. They took care of all their own IT, and so that. But as IT became more and more prevalent, used more and more, they didn't have the resources to do all that themselves. It used to be that every company, okay, so now they've got their IT services, but um, they want to make sure they take care of security. You
Yes.
need to outsource security. Like if you're a smaller company, you need to outsource security to somebody who's got the expertise who can take care of that for you.
Yes.
Even if
Absolutely.
you've got your own team, you are outsourcing a lot of the tools. So there is outsourcing that's happening. You want to make sure that you're outsourcing wisely and cost effectively for a company that's in your situation.
Yes. So sorry to cut you off in there, but we have a couple of questions. The first one is
Yeah.
from Adrian Paris. He says, he asked, governments will invest more in cybersecurity over time, right?
I want to answer that one. Yes,
Absolutely.
governments always invest more and more over time, but don't rely on the government to do any investing that's going to improve your
For
security.
you.
You
Yeah,
need
that's
to
a good
make
they,
sure
point.
they
that you're
can
taking
barely
care
take
of
care of
yourself.
themselves, man. That,
Yeah,
that
no,
that's
good,
the
good.
thing about
So
governments. The second question that we have is from
So,
Janzi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but it's Chan Jiz Sar. Thank you for being on our show, Jan
absolutely.
says, and he asks, how would skill supply help with the lack of security for technologies and applications?
How would the skill supply?
That is that is huge. I mean, you know, like you don't have enough skills and you can't secure technologies, right? So and the thing is, the funny thing is, you know, humans are the weakest links, and even if you are an expert at what you're doing, you're still you can still be a cybersecurity risk. And the funny thing is that all of these companies, a lot of suppliers, huge companies out there are coming out with really, really good and evolved technology that relies on AI, for example, that can
Mhm.
do automated analysis of threats and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, the people that have to operate that technology need to be experts at what they do too, right? So it's like, imagine I have this operating room and I'm supposed to be a doctor and I have the latest technology to diagnose and operate, but if I'm not good myself, what is a piece of equipment without the expertise? So the supply, the skills is so fundamental. And that's what I'm saying. When you're just coming out of school, you sometimes you can't tackle. I mean, you won't be able to tackle all of this advanced technology unless you have a few years on your belt, right? So that is what I take from this question, and I hope my answer satisfy your question, Janzeg. All right. So moving on. The fourth one, we only have 4 minutes left, guys. It was a
Oh,
short run today. Trust no one.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
Yep.
Yeah. So that this is the thing. We're moving into zero trust, frameworks, right? So, but those are really important and really good for big companies. But what happens to the smaller guys? What happens to mom and pop shops and medium sized companies that they cannot afford to have zero trust in their companies? This is it. Trust no one, right? So,
That's one of the reasons why you need to have multiple layers of security. You don't want to have all of your resources, all of your security tools from one company, because if you do, all your eggs are in one basket. If they happen to get breached, everything's affected. But if
you know
you've
what?
got layers from different companies, one of them gets breached, you've still got a layer or two between the hacker and your critical
You know,
information.
Andrew, I
yeah,
think that's a great point because the reality of it, as Dan always alludes to, cybersecurity is an onion, right? Multiple layers. And this applies to everything we've had a conversation about today. From the insurance to security to zero trust to making sure you have the right partnerships in place. The reality of it is, as a small organization, mid-sized or large organization, your
yes,
needs depend on that layer of onions. And the more layers you put in place, the more protection you have.
yeah,
And so, with this education, by building that onion and pulling back those layers, making sure you're protected, it becomes more cost effective for you
absolutely.
because you're doing it over time. And ultimately, you're going to have the right tools in place if you go for that insurance, for example, back to the insurance question, you're going to have, say, 8 out of 10 things that are going to require. So it's going to be a lot more cost effective for you to say, okay, I'll fix those 2 things and now get it versus
Yes,
starting from scratch. So, no, great
absolutely.
point, Andrew.
So we only have a couple of minutes, but I really wanted to push the next one for you. And I know that Andrew really wanted me to put this one on the screen, and it's not a scare tactic, but it is there. And we're talking about what was it? This is from Beyond Trust.
Oh, it's the, what's
Oh,
called the
I
big
missed
one.
it.
So
I
What is
missed
which
the
it.
one
big
is
the,
it? Which one is it, Andrew?
the big one? So, I mean, what it talks about basically is, we've all as a globe, I mean, the planet, we've gone through World War I, we've gone through World War II, we've gone through so many different concerns and issues around the planet. There's been so many issues, and the reality of a cybersecurity global attack, whether it be on our natural resources, whether it be on our infrastructure, whether it be on the technology that could cause harm. We as a planet are not prepared for a global cybersecurity attack, and it could happen. And it's not a scare tactic; it's a reality because we are so, especially in these countries like Canada, the United States, Europe, etc. That have, you turn on the switch, the lights there, you turn on the water, it's there, everything's fresh. You know, um, You look at what just happened with COVID, and the world literally shut down for the last 2 years. I mean, it's indirectly catastrophic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
How it affected, education, how it affected health and wellness, how it affected relationship, how it affected business, how it affected working from home. As a global cyber attack, that's all peanuts compared to what we would do, because lack of communication, lack of clean water, lack of electricity, lack of heat, all these concerns are there. And this isn't a scare tactic. This is about us being as proactive as an individual, as individuals and as companies, to protect ourselves from that happening down the line. We have to not be reactive. We need to be proactive, that in the event anything ever happens, and this isn't a scare, again, this is all about just communication and talk. But that could happen, and we need to be prepared, and we need
Yes.
to be aware of that, so we
Yeah,
protect ourselves.
I think one of the things you want to make sure is that
Or-
going back to the single source or one place where you're getting your resources, that article mentioned, it doesn't have to be a cyber attack. It can be an earthquake, or it can be
Yes.
some other
Absolutely.
event that takes
Exactly.
out the critical resources
100%.
that
Good
you
point,
rely
Andrew.
on.
Yeah, everybody's
Good point.
vulnerable. There's an earthquake, there's some sort of catastrophe like a tsunami or something like that. Everybody's vulnerable, not just in the fact that they're losing their homes and stuff like that, but cybersecurity, it's important, because then you don't have the people that's going to be taking care of the cybersecurity or the technology. So you're exposing yourself. Guys,
Yeah,
thank you so much for participating in this show.
Wonderful show.
It is 12:31. We're already 1 minute over. I'll see you, or we will see you, not on the next show on 12, because I have my operations on my clavicle,
That's
but
right.
on
We
the
wish you well, Dan.
thank you so much. I hope I come back.
hey,
You will come back with
I'm
bells on.
scared. I'm scared, man. I've never been operated on, so this is my first time. But we'll see you on the 19th, right? So Andrew Swart, thank you for participating. Andrew
Thank you, Andrew.
Summerton, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And guys, I hope to see you on the 19th, 12 o'clock, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Until then, see you later.
All the best, everybody.